Welcome back to Hope Champions podcast. My name is Tessa Young, and just a reminder, this season we're going to be looking at hope, science in action.
Absolutely. We're going to be looking at the stories of people who are doing the work.
Yeah. So speaking of doing the work, when you think about, like I said, just the climate that we're in now, when we think about policies and laws and things like that, how can we put hope into those type of things? Because a lot of times it looks like it's more of a stonewall type of thing where that law is the law or the policy's there. There's not really any kind of way around it. But there are people out there doing the work to make sure that these policies and laws are hopeful as well. So how does that look, Scott?
Well, I happen to know just the person that we can.
I figured you did.
I have a good friend, Tanisha Lewis. And Tanisha lives in Washington, D.C., and she works with government officials and policymakers and policy advisors. She does a lot of work around juvenile welfare, helping those agencies that are doing foster care. What does good foster care policy look like, in law look like? So Tanisha is rubbing elbows with our policymakers in D.C., and I really look forward to introducing her to all of you and the stories she has to tell.
Welcome to the Hope Champions podcast with Project Harmony. I'm Tessa.
I'm John.
And I'm Scott.
Join us as we explore the science of hope and its profound impact on healing right here on the Hope Champions podcast.
So welcome back, listeners, to another episode of the Hope Champions podcast. This is Scott. I'm your host for today, and I'm really excited to introduce you to a friend of mine, Tanisha Lewis. Tanisha, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and anything you want us to know about you.
Awesome. I'm a diehard advocate. That is what I do. I get to advocate for change. I get to advocate for people all day, every single day of my life, and I love it. My company is called Niche Consulting Firm, and we do lobbying and consulting, business development, and also public relations. But whole reason why I got into that is because I was a natural born advocate. I came from a family where I had two siblings who were disabled, and my mother is a disabled vet, and I grew up for a period of time in a drug and alcoholic home. So I had to learn real fast at a very early age how to ask for what I needed and how to get what I needed and to understand how the world works at a very, very early age.
And now you're doing that on behalf of others.
Yes, and I love it.
I love that.
Yes.
And for those listeners who don't know, Tanisha does that a lot within the federal government circles. Can you tell us a little bit about what you do in D.C.?
So in D.C., I have the pleasure of advocating for my clients. So I work to go on the Hill. I am a lobbyist for some of my clients. But what I do is I go to your senators, to your congressmen, I go to the White House, and I speak to them about the issues my clients are working on. So for me, I have a wide range of issues, but my passion is for children and families. And the whole reason why I got into policy in 2019 is because I want to reform foster care until it doesn't exist. So what I do on a regular basis, whether I'm having a meeting with a congressional member, senator, whoever I'm meeting with, we talk about the issues. And one thing I'm very, very clear about and trying to understand, and I think which makes advocacy easier to achieve the end goal for my client, is to understand who I'm meeting with. Mm-hmm. So when I go to meet with a senator, I find out what is relative in their life, what they say publicly, but then also personally, what is relative in their life, and connect that to the issue that I'm advocating for my client. So when it comes to children and, say, making sure Medicaid doesn't get cut, how does that connect to a politician who maybe has never had Medicaid
never needed it.
Right? But
Doesn't know anyone in his or her family who needed it.
Doesn't know, right? So I have to go in and understand that from that person, how to speak to them. And it's not to, one thing I think is happening right now, which needs to happen, is people are angry, so they're going to blow up their congressional members' phones, you know? Depending on the person it works, some people, they don't even hear it, and they tell their staff to turn their phones off. So, but I think a way to be very targeted in advocacy is to understand how that person doesn't understand how it connects to them. Yeah. So what people don't understand when it comes to Medicaid and your regular person who might be up there, so how would Medicaid work and how does it affect your constituency and your workforce? So the economics and how it will impact that congressional member's district is
community well-being.
Exactly. So if your workforce has kids who are needing to have Head Start and their kids can't receive Head Start anymore and they have to find somebody to come and watch their kids, or they can't go to work because they have to watch their kids, it's going to be huge implications to the workforce that goes to work every single day and serves in the community. Your hospitals, you know, they're not getting Medicaid reimbursements, the dish payments back. They'll have to cut staff. Your public schools, they will have to cut staff. Medicaid reimbursements are given to public schools for the healthcare providers that go in there, for your therapists, for your behavioral students and services like that, for your regular counselors. So we have to make them understand that, okay, you might not understand how this reaches to you, but this is your constituency and this is the flooded impact that it will have, not only on the people, but the market, right?
Right. So you're an advocate.
Yes.
You're a storyteller.
Yes.
You're a connector.
Yes.
And you're a hope champion.
Yes.
So I know over the last few years, Hope Science has become a bigger part of your work. And I'm guessing all of our listeners want to believe there's hope in all levels of governance and policy, right? That those decision makers understand bright future and pathways and agency.
Yes.
Talk to us about the role Hope Science plays in your work.
It's in everything I do, it is a tentacle. One thing I've learned in my business, and actually it's what makes me unique, is because I needed hope, and that's, I believe, the only way I survived my childhood, and honestly what has got me to where I'm at today. Because if I didn't have somebody who provided me hope and a pathway when I was younger, I never could have seen myself where I'm at today.
Shout her name out. You can go ahead and just say her name her.
Yes, Mother Posley. She was so instrumental in my life. When I was 9 years old, I met this woman from Council-Tucky. She was at our church, and she was this white woman, this bigger lady who had these bright blue eyes, and she's just a voluptuous woman. And she would find me every single Sunday and give me this great big hug and just tell me how special of a child I was. Now, during this time, I'm 9 years old. I hated going home. My home was a disaster. My father at the time was on drugs and alcohol. My mom was barely surviving that, and our house was in constant disarray, and there was not peace in my home. And it was very dark. And as a 9-year-old, to see where your parents cannot be there the way they used to be is very disheartening. And it makes your world very, very dark. Because
hard to see a bright future in that moment.
It's very hard because you see the people you rely on the most not able to take care of themselves or the people who are in their home. Yeah. And then you already understand as a child, don't be asking for stuff because the situations are dicey. But that being said, the beauty of it was both of my parents, something I love about them is they both have determination, which is definitely given to me. So both of them are fighters. So neither one of them gave up during these hard times. There was still a way for them to try to show us to keep going. Yeah. But that being said, when it comes to how I do hope in the work that I do, Mother Posley had this thing she would tell me every single Sunday when she would hug me. She'd say, Tanisha, you are such a special, special little girl. Too much is given, much is due. And you're going to help so many children and families. You have no idea. And I could not believe any of those words.
Right.
Because all I could see was darkness.
She was painting a bright picture, a bright future for you.
She was, every time. And then the great part about her, she would invite me into her home. She'd ask my mom, hey, Renee, can I take Tanisha home with me today after church? And my mom, she has 4 kids. Of course, she's like, oh, sure.
Sure, take them all.
You want to take one? You can have 2. Yeah, she was... And this woman, one thing that was great about this woman was at church. So my baby sister has cerebral palsy and she drools, her legs are turned in. Some people might find it uncomfortable to be around her, and she's in a brief. So she has to be changed and things like that. And then my older sister, at the time, she had a terminal brain disease. And so she was an odd kid to people, would say things that made people uncomfortable at times. But she was so happy. Tiffany was the best and the brightest. So Mother Posley would invite us to come sit next to her at church. She loved having Portia sit next to her at church. She loved that. She loved having us girls be with her. Mm-hmm. And that was very inviting because somebody didn't care how we looked. And somebody didn't care how we acted. She just wanted to love us and wanted to allow us to be near her.
And that's what you're doing now, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
You're taking people who some people may not think of as lovable or valuable or seen.
That was something I think is the biggest difference is, can I see you and can I hear you? Because I think at the end of the day, all that we want is to be seen and heard, and especially with kids who are coming from these traumatic environments. Can you give that child their voice back? Can you hear them and can you see them? So even if they can't see something in themselves, can you see the gift that they have and then tell them about it? Can you see the gift that the parent has who's struggling, even though you might see the rap record and it might look rough? But can you look beyond that and see what's inside of them that is good?
Yeah.
And can you tell them about that?
Can you paint the picture that they may not be able to see for themselves,
yes.
just like Betty painted it for you?
Yes. And do it on a consistent basis. For me and my job and the people I interact with, if I can't tell a story to help them see how to get to the end outcome, then my job does not work. So I have to be able to navigate from beginning to end. And these situations, especially as we see what's happening in our country, can look so, so dark, right?
Yeah.
But if I can advocate for somebody and show them like, hey, when we're putting dollars into this program, this allows for X, Y, and Z to happen. And X, Y, and Z helps our community this way. And because I work with everybody on all sides, it saves you this much money.
And hope is the number one predictor of well-being.
Yes.
Community well-being, individual well-being. You're peddling hope as a way to build healthy community.
And that's, I think, when people can understand how you can give somebody the hope and the embetterment steps to better their lives, they see how it can be transformational. And that's the picture I work every day to paint. How do you transform communities? How do you transform someone's life? You have to give them steps. And you have to give them an opportunity so that they can achieve the steps. If you can't paint the steps, it ain't real. So don't be coming and talking to me, because I used to have this happen to me as a child. There were programs and things my mom would have us go to and the caseworker were assigning us to. And I could tell, one thing I always tell people, two people you can't lie to in this world: a dog, an animal, and a kid. So don't come up anywhere you don't want to be, because the child will smell it a million miles away. And they would tear you up, because I was one of those kids.
Yeah.
I knew you didn't want to be near me. I knew you were just trying to fill some hours. I knew that, right? And one thing I've understand even too, having that piece of me inside of me, I still have that as an adult. So I know, because of how I grew up and I had to observe adults and the work that they were doing to see who was a good person, who was a bad person, and who was trying to come in my space, who I wanted to be in my space, who I didn't want to be in my space. I had to learn how to navigate that, right? So now into the work that I do now, I read people and I read behaviors and I watch behaviors. I watch what makes them uncomfortable. I watch what makes them comfortable. I watch what they want to be close to, what they're not close to. I watch what they respond to. I watch how you sneeze, okay? I'm watching everything.
Love it.
And I'm listening to everything. And those help me to see indicators on what people respond to as I present what I'm advocating for. Because sometimes I've learned some people can't ever walk in your shoes or imagine walking in your shoes, and that doesn't work for everybody. But you have to meet people where they're at.
Yes.
And once you can ask questions, hear where they're at, it will allow you to take the steps and paint the steps to where you're trying to get to. But you have to understand where everybody is at.
Yep.
And the beautiful thing about hope is everybody needs it and everybody has it in some sense.
Mm-hmm.
You just have to find out what sense they have it in and how it's relative to them, because it's the same thing for you. You just got to know how they use it.
You're talking about critical hope. You're really doing a beautiful
Yes.
job of defining critical hope. And when we train critical hope, we use Tupac's image of a rose growing in concrete, right?
Yeah.
And for our listeners who know Tupac's lyric, it talks about looking at a rose that's blooming while it grows in concrete.
Yes.
And the lyric says that we wouldn't question the bruises on the rose's petals. We would celebrate the fact that the rose is blooming despite this environment.
Yes.
So we're not, hope says to the rose, you're beautiful where you're planted.
Yes.
And there's still ways that we can crack that concrete. I may not be able to remove it for you, but I can crack it.
Yes.
We might be able to get some water and nutrients to your roots. But that's what I hear you saying. I'm taking those people who are roses growing in concrete. Maybe they're in a tough situation,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
You're seeing them.
Yep.
You're acknowledging that. You're not saying, let's go have dinner. You're saying, hey, are you aware you're in concrete, right? You're acknowledging the reality of what they're experiencing,
Yeah.
which allows them to feel seen and heard. And then they can start believing
Yes.
that their government or their elected officials or their decision makers or community leaders can start to see them for who they are as well.
And one thing I love, because I get to play in all these like different worlds, is so on the weekends I volunteer. And I'm actually going to start because I travel a lot, but I want to start. There's a Dream Center in Washington, D.C. is one of the organizations that I personally support. And I love like volunteering and going there, spending time with the kids, because it not only energizes me for what I need to do, but it grounds me for the things that matter most, right? And if you speak to any of the kids who are in there, you have to understand they don't have to talk to you, nor do they really want to, right? But what can I leave them with? If they do choose to talk to me and I get to interact with them, what can I leave them with, and what can I leave their parents with, right?
Right. You're Betty Posley.
I want to be.
Right.
I really want to be. But it's and then too, like, even with a congressional member, what can I leave them with? And what can I speak hope to in them about? It's a transactional thing, I think, when we start to think about how we engage like our leaders and stuff. You have to understand, I think their jobs are just very, very taxing, but they have a responsibility to their constituency, right? that being said, what is motivating them to do what they do, and how did they get on this path to be where they're at? And then how does that relate to the people I'm serving in the path for them and where we're trying to help them get to, right? Or where they want to go. And the thing about people are people. Like, people are the exact same, whether you're in a button-up suit and tie and you're in the White House, or you're working somewhere, in Bellevue, Nebraska, as a greeter at the store.
Right.
It's the exact same person. They need food. They're going to use the bathroom. They have to wipe their butt. They have family and friends, hopefully, that they want to see and love. They have people that they're responsible for, and they have to go home at night and go to bed. It's just, what does that situation look like? And I think when we start to understand, I want every one of my encounters, and I know this sounds crazy, but this is how I live my life. I want to be a blessing for those who see me. I've always said, like, I want to be a blessing. I want to be a blessing. And if I encounter somebody, whether it's a child or an adult, what do I leave them with? Can I see even in short interactions? Some people just really want to be seen. And this is where I think when you're talking about, like, man, what are ways I can incorporate hope into my everyday life, or how do I give hope? How do I become a hope champion? How are you speaking to people? How do you look at people? Do you have a smile on your face? Do you have, like, are you inviting, I had this experience in college, and there was this girl who was walking towards me afar off, and I felt like I needed to say hi. And it was like a really strong urge to say hi. And I did not. And
you didn't know her.
I didn't know her. But she passed by and she was crying. And that taught me something. Like, you just never know what people are going through. Yeah. And there's easy ways to give hope. It's easy to say hi to somebody. And it's easy to say, don't just say, how you doing? What's going on? I think another way that people can give hope in tangible ways is, can I do something for you? Can I help you with something? Yeah. And mean it. Don't just be like, hey, yeah, if you need something, just holler at me. No, be like, hey, if you need something, I really would like to help you. And for those of us who have money, put your money where your mouth is. Sometimes leaving that extra tip, or even, leaving something for somebody at a gas station. You never know who you're blessing. Right. You don't know who you're encountering, and you don't know what your act of seeing somebody can do for that person's life.
What I love about what you're saying, Tanisha, is I think some people hear Hope Science and they think, well, I need a manual. I need a curriculum. Yeah. I need a program. Yeah. And what you're saying is, you need to make eye contact with somebody. Yeah, please. Right? You need to say hi to the stranger.
Yes. And can you sit with me?
Right. I love that. I think one of the things is we teach people about Hope Science is, what am I supposed to do? And what I hear you saying, acknowledge the people for who they are, regardless of who they are. You don't know if they're planted in concrete or in the most fertile soil, and you'll never know that. We think we do. We think we can look at them and guess. Yeah. But
you have to interact. So my family and I, we have probably a very sick humor, just given our circumstance, And I blame my dad for it all. He is he is so funny. He loves to make sure that we're all laughing, because you know how dads are. Like, they just want to see, and he has all girls. So he wants to see everybody smiling and laughing, and he will make sure that we can talk about how bad he is for him to get a laugh. Like, he's that guy. And we also have, my little sister with her disability. She's nonverbal. I mean, she has some speech that she has, and she has autism and things. And we crack jokes on her all the time, and she needs it. And I was, last time when I was here last month in Omaha, there was a younger gentleman I saw, and he was with his dad. He probably was like maybe 22, 21 years old, and he was in a wheelchair. And I was just noticing how he was like trying to get around and people were just like, cutting in front of him. And eventually he like moved around and he was getting on the plane first. And so I saw that he had an Iowa shirt on and he was, coming to Omaha. And I told him, I was like, hey, you got to be careful out here in these streets. You know how we feel about y'all. And he just laughed so hard at me. And his dad smiled too. But, it's one of those things, like, can you just, like, see people? And especially growing up in a family with disabilities, I remember going to restaurants. People would move away from us. And we've been asked to, like, leave before, too, just because of how our family, looked. It was uncomfortable for people to be around us. And I think the beauty of what Betty Posley was able to instill in me was she chose to put herself in a situation that others might find uncomfortable. I don't know if she knew at the time my dad was on drugs. I don't know. I don't know if she knew how much my mother was struggling. I know we look like a circus. We go out like a literal circus, like two of my siblings struggling to walk. And then it was a lot going on. But she chose to engage in that. And the beauty of what she did was she would encourage my mom. I never forget at her funeral, my mother stood up there and she said, Betty loved my girls. She loved my girls. And that was the biggest thing
when some
for
people
her.
couldn't see my girls or didn't want to be near my girls, Betty loved them.
Yeah, and that's my mom. That's all she kept saying when she's like, she loved my girls. And just think about in people's everyday work that we do. Yes, especially if you're a caseworker, it sucks. I tried it for a year. I could not hang in there. But the impact that I had on so many people's lives to just love them in a genuine way when they are going through probably one of the hardest things of their life, having to go to court, having to have people be very invasive in their personal life every single day and monitor them. But you can sit there and encourage them, let them know that you're in it with them. And to, it meant so much to one of my clients one time. She had a baby and she was a teenager with a baby. And she was rough. She was real rough. And that's why she was my client. They gave her to me,
That's why she was your client.
And that's fine. I love the rough ones. You should see on Sunday when I'm serving in church, I always get all the crying ones. They love me and I love them. Even no matter the vomit that comes on me, I will still love that child. But that being said, this client in particular, I asked her when we were meeting, I was like, can I hold your baby? And she's like, excuse me? I was like, yeah. I said, can I hold your baby? And she's like, sure. I said, oh, she's such a this baby was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful little girl. I said, oh, she has your eyes. She had really big eyes like her mom. I was like, you guys both had really big, beautiful eyes. I wish. Like, oh my gosh. And as I'm telling her about her baby and just how wonderful her baby is, because her baby was very advanced, like just her movements and things like that, like holding her head up and everything else. I'm like, oh, this one gonna be smart. You gonna have to watch out.
Yeah.
But the girl started to cry.
Because she'd never heard those things.
Never.
Right? So by saying them to her baby was the first time she was hearing them.
Yeah. And it was for her too.
Yeah. That's hope.
It is.
That's hope.
And you have to, I think, you can't get caught up in your head. Remember how you saying like people want a manual, they want a formula? But the basic things that Betty did for me when she took me home, she had all these books on the shelves. And she would tell me stories, just stories of her and her husband's life and the adventures they went on and how God had really blessed them. And she had this really, really tiny house and she had 10 kids in this tiny, tiny house. But she just told me about her life and her struggles. And I would think to myself, oh, she knows, she understands me. She gets.
Because she struggled.
She struggled, right? She gets me. It might have been something different, but she struggled and she shared that with me. And then what she would do, she would ask me questions about myself. And I'm 9 years old. She's like, you know, she told me this one time. It's so funny. She's like, do you want to be an attorney? You know, she had said these things to me. She would ask me things like, you know, I could see you doing speaking. I really could. What, have you ever thought about that? And she would like invite different ideas in my life given the things she was seeing in me. Now, for me at that time, I thought I was worthless. I thought I was filthy. Like, I just felt really bad about myself. I thought, you know, I used to ask the question to God all the time, like, why would you have let me be alive just to let me be in a situation like this? Why would you do this to me and my family? I would constantly ask him that because it was so dark. But then when I go over to Betty's house, she would tell me about like how wonderful my family was. And she would just laugh about my little sister, Portia. That Portia. Oh my goodness, that Portia. But she was seeing beyond the exterior to see what was destiny.
And as she told you her stories, she was telling you about pathways.
She really did.
She was telling you about agency and how she overcame difficulties.
Yep.
She didn't know it. She didn't know Hope Science. But she was a Hope champion.
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
She is. I mean, when I get to heaven, I can't wait. She's like, other than my sister, she's like I do have a list. She's definitely number 2 on my list. But she was just, even until death, and that's, even until death, this woman was breaking these thought patterns in my mind. When I saw her, the last time I saw her, and I was rubbing her hand, and I just told her, thank you for loving me. I was just such a bad kid. And this is me, like, you know, in my 20s, right, saying I'm a bad kid. No, and she's like, you weren't ever a bad child. You were perfect. And I was like, oh my God.
On her deathbed.
Tanisha, you were perfect. Can I see somebody else and see, like, you're perfect? You're perfect. Like, I think that's like the whole thing about every day. Can I see somebody, see them, love them, and treat them like they're perfect? Even though they have all this other stuff going on. Even though I didn't like how that congressional member voted. Can I see the good? Yes, I can.
Right.
Because somebody did that for me.
The rose growing in concrete, we can see beyond its bruised petals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh. We're at over 30. The listeners can't see the tears in my eyes seeping down out of the corners of my eyes. That always happens when I talk to you. Is there anything else you want to, that you haven't been able to say that you want to really get in?
I will say this to anybody who is a Hope champion or aspiring to be a Hope champion. You already are if you're already listening to this. And the way you live your life is being a hope giver. Just the way you live your life. The way you interact with somebody at the grocery store. The way you act at the gas station. The way you treat your family and people are watching. You know, the way you present yourself when you go into the places that you're serving or working, how you treat your coworkers, how you treat that one coworker who is annoying and has no friends, but could you just smile and have lunch with them some from time to time? It's those things, it's those little things that I think make the difference in how we give hope and start to transform our environments, because you can transform the environments you walk into. And the last thing I will say is take care of yourself. Take care of yourself. Find out what gives you energy and make sure you plug into that.
You can't give something you don't have.
Amen. And people will know if you're lying. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thanks for listening to the Hope Champions podcast with Project Harmony. For more information about the podcast or how to become a Hope Champion in your community, visit our website at projectharmony.com/Hope Champions. Listen, rate, and subscribe to the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Keep up with us and the rest of Project Harmony on social media. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Project Harmony, and on X at Project Harmony 2.
Join us for the next episode.